Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Nashtapraishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Ter Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, Attack by Chandavega on the city of King Puranjan, the character of Kalkanya, text number 6 onwards. Tasyam janati putran Puranjanyam Puranjanaha Shatani ekadash virad Ayusho adharma athatyagat. The great sage Narad then addressed King Prachin Barhesha, O one whose lifespan is great, Virat. In this way, King Puranjan begot 1100 sons within the womb of his wife, Puranjani. However, in this business, he passed away half of his lifespan. In this verse, there are several significant words, the first of which are Ekadash Shatani. Puranjan had begotten 1100 sons within the womb of his wife and thus passed away half of his life. Actually, every man follows a similar process. If one lives for 100 years at the most in his family life, he simply begets children up to the age of 50. Unfortunately, at the present moment, people do not live even 100 years. Nonetheless, they beget children up to the age of 60. Another point is that formerly people used to beget 100 or 200 sons and daughters. As will be evident from the next verse, King Puranjan not only begot 1100 sons, but also 110 daughters. At the present moment, no one can produce such huge quantities of children. Instead, mankind is very busy checking the increase of population by contraceptive methods. So we have to see what actually this 1100 sons mean. We do not find in Vedic literatures that they ever used contraceptive methods, although they were begetting hundreds of children. Checking population by contraceptive method is another sinful activity. But in this age of Kali, people have become so sinful they do not care for the resultant reactions of their sinful lives. King Puranjan lay down with his wife Puranjani and begot a large number of children, and there is no mention in these verses that he used contraceptive methods. According to the Vedic scriptures, a contraceptive method should be restrained in sex life. It is not that one should indulge in unrestricted sex life and avoid children by using some method to check pregnancy. If a man is in good consciousness, he consults with his religious wife, and as a result of this consultation, with intelligence, one advances in his ability to estimate the value of life. In other words, if one is fortunate enough to have a good, conscientious wife, he can decide by mutual consultation that human life is meant for advancing in Krishna consciousness and not for begetting a large number of children. Children are called parinam or byproducts, and when one consults his good intelligence, he can see that his byproducts should be an expansion of his Krishna consciousness. So 1100 sons, and he begot 110 daughters also. And there was no, of course, this is allegory going on, but Prabhupada brings up the point that contraceptives are never used. These days, people use it because they don't want to take the responsibility of children, but they cannot give up sex life. So contraceptives are used. But what Prabhupada has said other places, that even if somebody begets tens of children, they're not going to come in the world without the sanction of the Lord. So we think earth cannot produce enough food for so much of population, or there's so much of increase in population. But that is not correct. Earth can produce as much as we want. But the only problem is we have to be religious. That's all. It's not like we are irreligious and we are just begetting children like cats and dogs, and we expect Earth to nourish them all. And this is why we read the story of King Vena, and that time Earth stopped producing uh, the proper fruit grains, and that's why Prithu Maharaj uh, had to chastise Mother Earth. But Earth told him that because the king was so sinful, he had stopped the sacrifices. I stopped producing the food grains. So Earth can produce unlimited amount of food grains, provided we are devotees, so we are doing the sacrifice properly. दुहित्रिदशोत्तरशतं पितृमातृयशस्करिः शीलोद्धार्य गुणोपेतः पौरजन्यः प्रजापते. O Prajapati, King Prachin Barhishat, in this way King Puranjan also begot 110 daughters. All of these were equally glorified like the father and mother. Their behavior was gentle and they possessed magnanimity and other good qualities. Children begotten under the rules and regulations of the scriptures generally become as good as a father and mother, but children born illegitimately mainly become Varnashankar. The Varnashankar population is irresponsible to the family, community, and even to themselves. Formerly, the Varnashankar population was checked by the observation of the reformatory method called Garbhadan Sanskar, a child begetting religious ceremony. In this verse, we find that although King Puranjan had begotten so many children, they were not Varnashankar. All of them were good, well-behaved children, and they had good qualities like the father and mother. Even though we may produce many good children, our desire for sex that is beyond the prescribed method is to be considered sinful. Too much enjoyment of any of the senses, not only sex, results in sinful activities. Therefore, one has to become a Swami or Goswami at the end of his life. One may beget children up to the age of 50, but after 50, one must stop begetting children and should accept the Vanprastha order. In this way, he must leave home and then become a sannyasi. A sannyasi's title is Swami or Goswami, which means that he completely refrains from sense enjoyment. One should not accept the sannyas order whimsically. He must be fully confident that he can restrain his desires for sense gratification. King Puranjan's family life was, of course, very happy. As mentioned in these verses, he begot 1,100 sons and 110 daughters. Everyone desires to have more sons than daughters, and since the number of daughters was less than the number of sons, it appears that King Puranjan's family life was very comfortable and pleasing. And here Prabhupada mentioned that sons and daughters, they were properly born, they were not illegitimate, so no Varnashankar, proper religious process was followed, Garbhadan Sanskar, and then everything was nice. So both Puranjan and his wife, they were happy. Of course, I haven't read. I have to find out what exactly these sons and daughters mean. Let's see. Sapanchal patih putran pitrivansha vivardhanan dhara sanyojayamasa duhitrihi sadrisha varaha. After this, King Puranjan, king of the Panchal country, in order to increase the descendants of his paternal family, married his sons with qualified wives and married his daughters with qualified husbands. According to the Vedic system, everyone should marry. One has to accept a wife because a wife will produce children. And the children in their turn will offer foodstuffs and funeral ceremonies too, so that the forefathers, wherever they may live, will be made happy. The offering of oblations in the name of Lord Vishnu is called Pindodak, and it is necessary that the descendants of a family offer Pinda to the forefathers. So this Pindodak ceremony or yagya or shrad is very, very important. Okay, here also it is said he was a king of Panchal country. So if we remember King Prithu, it was mentioned his kingdom was in between where Ganges and Yamuna flows. And Prabhupada explained it was somewhere in Punjab. So this is also the story of Punjab only. King Puranjan was in Punjab. The Panchal country was actually Punjab, modern day Punjab. And if you remember, Draupadi's another name was Panchali. So she was from Punjab. I don't know exactly which place. We have to search in the scriptures, but she was from Punjab. Putranam cha bhavan putra ekaikasya shatam shatam yerve pauranjano vanshaha panchaleshu sameditaha. Of these many sons, each produced hundreds and hundreds of grandsons. In this way, the whole city of Panchal became overcrowded by these sons and grandsons of King Puranjan. Okay, here Prabhupada is explaining. We must remember that Puranjan is a living entity and the city Panchal is a body. The body is a field of activity for the living entity. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Kshetra Kshetragya. There are two constituents. One is a living entity, Kshetragya, and the other is a body of the living entity, Kshetra. Any living entity can know that he is covered by the body if he only contemplates the body a little bit. Just with a little contemplation, he can come to understand that the body is his possession, means he is not the body. One can understand this by practical experience and by the authority of the Shastras. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Dehino asmin yatha dehe. The proprietor of the body, the soul, is within the body. The body is taken as a Panchal Desh, or the field of activities, wherein the living entity can enjoy the senses in their relationship to the five sense objects, namely Gandha, Rasa, Rupa, Sparsh, and Shabda. That is, sense objects made out of earth, water, fire, air, and sky. Within this material world, covered by the material body of subtle and gross matter, every living entity creates actions and reactions, which are herein known allegorically as sons and grandsons. So every living entity creates actions and reactions. So they can be considered as sons and grandsons. There are two kinds of actions and reactions, namely pious and impious. In this way, our material existence becomes coated by different actions and reactions. So this is all what we do throughout our lives. We do the actions and then they produce reactions. Fruitive activities and mental speculation are simply cups of poison. Whoever drinks of them, thinking them to be nectar, must struggle very hard life after life in different types of bodies. Such a person eats all kinds of nonsense and becomes condemned by his activities of so-called sense enjoyment. Thus, the field of action and reactions by which one's descendants are increased begins with sex life. Puranjan increased his whole family by begetting sons, who in turn begot grandsons. Thus, a living entity, being inclined towards sexual gratification, becomes involved in many hundreds and thousands of actions and reactions. In this way, he remains within the material world simply for the purpose of sense gratification and transmigrates from one body to another. His process of reproducing so many sons and grandsons results in so-called societies, nations, communities, and so on. All these communities, societies, dynasties, and nations simply expand from sex life. As stated by Prahlad Maharajan, Mathunadi Grimedi Sukham Hitucham. A Grihimedi is one who wants to remain within this material existence. This means that he wants to remain within this body or society and enjoy friendship, love, and community. His only enjoyment is in increasing the number of sex enjoyers. He enjoys sex and produces children, who in their turn marry and produce grandchildren. Grandchildren also marry, and in their turn they produce great-grandchildren. In this way, the entire earth becomes overpopulated, and then suddenly there are reactions provoked by material nature in the form of war, famine, pestilence, earthquakes, corona. Of course, Prabhupada didn't say that, I'm adding that. Thus, the entire population is again extinguished simply to be recreated. This process is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate, as repeated creation and annihilation. Due to a lack of Krishna consciousness, all this creation and annihilation is going on under the name of human civilization. This cycle continues due to man's lack of knowledge of the soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So basically, Prabhupada had explained about this miseries, coronavirus, pandemic. And 100 years ago, there was the Spanish flu, which wiped out about 20% of the population of the earth. And now coronavirus, we don't know what the second wave is going to do. How deadly it's going to be, we don't know. But that's for sure, it's not going to go away sometime soon. So this is what nature takes care of, everything. Repeated creation and annihilation. Creation and annihilation. And it's going to go on. And we have no control over it. We think we are somebody very smart, very intelligent, and we have so many weapons, so many medical facilities. People are dying. So many people have died. So many deaths have not even been reported for corona. Or if they are reported, even the government is not admitting. There's so much stuff is going on. And we still think we are the controllers. That's the biggest illusion, actually. We are nobodies, no controllers, no enjoyers, nothing. Even a little microbe like coronavirus can create havoc in the whole world. Nobody knows how to deal with it. We think China knows. I'm pretty sure they even don't know. They're suppressing the data. It's crazy, completely crazy. And we think we are the controllers. We think in Delhi, if we put on mask, we will survive. It's not going to happen like that. Teshu tadrikt hareshu grihi koshanu jivishu nirudena mamatvena visheshva anva badhyata. These sons and grandsons were virtually plunderers of King Puranjan's riches, including his home, treasury, servants, secretaries, and all other paraphernalia. Puranjan's attachment for these things was very deep-rooted. So this word, plunderers, it came earlier also in the story of Ritu Maharaj, where it was mentioned wife and children are dasyu are dacoits, and here they're called plunderers. In this verse, the word Riktha Hareshu, meaning plunderers of wealth, is very significant. One's sons, grandsons, and other descendants are ultimately plunderers of one's accumulated wealth. There are many celebrated businessmen and industrialists who produce great wealth and are highly praised by the public, but all their money is ultimately plundered by their sons and grandsons. In India, we have actually seen one industrialist who, like King Puranjan, was very much sexually inclined and had a half dozen wives. I don't know who was that industrialist at the time of Prabhupada. Each of these wives had a separate establishment that necessitated the expenditure of several thousands of rupees. When I was engaged in talking with him, I saw that he was very busy trying to secure money so that all his sons and daughters would get at least 500,000 rupees each. So 5 lakh rupees in 1970, probably. A pretty big sum of money at that time. Thus, such industrialists, businessmen, or karmis are called mulas in the Shastras. They work very hard, accumulate money, and are satisfied to see that this money is plundered by their sons and grandsons. Such people do not want to return their wealth to its actual owner. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yagitapsam Sarvalok Maheshwara. The real proprietor of all wealth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the actual enjoyer. So-called earners of money are those who simply know tricks by which they can take away God's money under the guise of business and industry. So who simply know tricks by which they can take away God's money under the guise of business and industry. So this is what all the rich people are doing. So the point is, making money is not wrong, but how do we make and what do we do afterwards? That's the problem. After accumulating this money, they enjoy seeing it plundered by their sons and grandsons. This is the materialistic way of life. In materialistic life, one is encased within the body and deluded by false egoism. Thus one thinks, I am this body, I am a human being, I'm an American, I'm an Indian. This bodily conception is due to false ego. Being deluded by false ego, one identifies himself with a certain family, nation, or community. In this way, one's attachment for the material world grows deeper and deeper. Thus, it becomes very difficult for the living entity to extricate himself from his entanglement. So, of course, Prabhupada's purports are amazing. So, all the wealth that we accumulate over our lifetime, working hard, working so hard, and probably it will ultimately be plundered by the sons and the grandsons. And then, if we have too much money left, then there'll be fighting, there'll be court cases among the descendants. I've seen so many court cases for the property. Most of the court cases in India are for the property of father or grandfather, and then in the process, brothers become enemies and their children become enemies, and this fight or enmity goes on for generations actually. For little property. That's all. And nobody would be able to use that or enjoy that property. And even if they use that, they make proper divisions and they take their fair share. But the person worked so hard, and then finally it's all divided and gone. And in fact, in the end, nobody actually thanks the person who worked hard. Everybody has some issues. or some grudges. And that's all. That's all the life is. And Prabhupada, such people are graphically described in 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in this way. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I'll gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemy will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices, and I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. This money, this opulence, this property actually belongs to nobody. We are just given for some time to be a caretaker of that property, but that's about it. So Krishna keeps it in our control or under our care, so that we can try to use it in Krishna's service. That's the whole idea. But once we get the money, once we get the property, we start thinking, oh, I worked hard to make this money. This is mine. I should enjoy it. And that's when the karmic reactions begin. We cannot enjoy it, first of all. Even if somebody has a huge, huge bungalow and big empire of industries and the cars and whatever, the beach property or this property or that property, at the end of the day, he's only going to eat few chapatis, and for sleeping, he only needs a little bit of space. We think if we have air-conditioned room, house, we can sleep better. I don't think so. In India, if you see, people are sleeping on the roadsides with full traffic going, but they are still sleeping peacefully. And a person in the air-conditioned bungalow with no noise from outside, no traffic noise or nothing, and he cannot sleep properly. It's a fact. We travel so many times by train, and then I would see somebody sleeping on the berth, and he would be snoring. He is sleeping so nicely, with all the sound of the train and the vendors going inside the train, coming out, people moving around. And the person would be sleeping he would be snoring. That is carefree life, actually. But the more money we make, more properties we have, and it just takes away the sleep. Then we need the sleeping pills to even sleep. But that's not sleep. That's something else. It's not sleep. And it doesn't make one fresh or happy after getting up. Ije cha kritubhir ghorer dikshita pashumarke devan pitrin bhutpatin nana kamo yatha bhavan. The great sage Narad continued, my dear King Prachin Barhishat, like you, King Puranjan also became implicated in so many desires. Thus he worshipped demigods, forefathers, and social leaders with various sacrifices, which were all very ghastly because they were inspired by the desire to kill animals. So here Narad Muni is saying, Yatha Bhavan, Yatha, like you. So now he is coming to the real purport of the whole story. Like you, King Puranjan means he basically is telling King Prachin Bharishat. This was your story. Of course, it took us some time to understand because we had to go through the commentary purports by Prabhupada. But between Narad Muni and King Prachin Bharishat, there are just few shlokas, 30, 40 shlokas, and the conversation is going on. So it didn't take them too long. In this verse, the great sage Narad discloses that the character of Puranjan was being described to give lessons to King Prachin Bharishat. Actually, the entire description was figuratively describing the activities of King Prachin Bharishat. And Narad Muni, why he had to tell the whole story, an allegory? Because it depends on the person. Narad Muni, being the expert spiritual master, he knows how to transform the heart of a person. With Dhruv Maharaj, he did not tell this story. With the Vedvyas also in the first canto, when Vedvyasi was not satisfied and he could not write anything, even after writing the whole Vedas and the Vedanta Sutras. Narad Muni came, he didn't tell him a story like this because he knew what the disciple wants. But here, King Prachin Bharishat, since he was so much engrossed in performing these various karmkandiya sacrifices, so Narad Muni had to devise a story and then give him the right message properly. In this verse, Narad frankly says, like you, Yatha Bhavan, which indicates that King Puranjan is none other than King Prachin Bharishat himself. Being a great Vaishnava, Narad Muni wanted to stop animal killing in sacrifices. He knew that if he tried to stop the king from performing sacrifices, the king would not hear him. Therefore, he is describing the life of Puranjan. But in this verse, he first discloses the intention, although not fully, by saying, like you. Generally, the karmis who are attached to increasing descendants have to perform so many sacrifices and worship so many demigods of future generations, as well as to satisfy so many leaders, politicians, philosophers, and scientists to make things go on properly for future generations. The so-called scientists are very eager to see that future generations will live very comfortably, and as such, they're trying to find different means of generating energy to drive locomotives, cars, airplanes, and so on. Now they're exhausting the petroleum supply. These activities are described in Bhagavad Gita. Those who are on the spiritual path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. So their aim is one means they just want to please Krishna. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So irresolute means they want to satisfy themselves, they want to satisfy the society, the country, the community. So their intelligence is many-branched. It's all going here and there. Actually, those who are in knowledge of everything are determined to execute Krishna consciousness. But those who are rascals, moda, sinners, dushkritina, and the lowest of mankind, who are bereft of all intelligence and who take shelter of the demoniac ways of life, are disinterested in Krishna consciousness. As such, they become implicated and take on so many activities. Most of these activities center around the killing of animals. Modern civilization is centered around animal killing. Karmi is advertising that without eating meat, the vitamin value or vitality will be reduced. So to keep oneself fit to work hard, one must eat meat. And to digest meat, one must drink liquor. And to keep the balance of drinking wine and eating meat, one must have sufficient sexual intercourse to keep fit to work very hard like an ass. So this Prabhupada has summarized the life of karmis in this one sentence. So they advertise that They need to eat meat because they need the vitamins and the protein, and to work hard they must eat meat, and to digest meat they have to drink liquor, and to balance the two they have to have illicit sex. This is life. And Prabhupada said, like an ass, like a donkey. There are two ways of animal killing. One way is in the name of religious sacrifices. All the religions of the world, except the Buddhists, have a program for killing animals in places of worship. According to Vedic civilization, the animal eaters are recommended to sacrifice a goat in the temple of Kali under certain restrictive rules and regulations and eat the flesh. And the rules and regulations are they can only do it on the new moon day, Amavasya. And the person who wants to eat, he himself has to sacrifice the goat. And while sacrificing, he has to say this mantra in the ear of the goat, that I'm killing you in this lifetime, so next life you can come and kill me and eat my flesh. That's why it's called mansa, ma ansha, my ansha, my flesh. So the rules are only goat or chicken, or Prabhupada said lower animal, not a cow. They cannot sacrifice a cow for eating flesh. And only once a month on the new moon day. But people have forgotten, or they don't want to follow the rules, but they just want to eat meat, unrestrictedly killing animals to eat meat. That was never recommended. And in fact, in Christianity also, Jesus Christ, 10 Commandments, he said, thou shalt not kill. And you should not kill animals to eat. They were given animals to protect them, not to kill and eat them. And many times Christians, they say, oh, Jesus fed the whole crowd with 2 fishes. There's a difference. There were so many people following Jesus, and they had come to the shore of the ocean, and they had nowhere to go, nothing to feed them, no crops. So Jesus, and it was a big crowd. I don't know how big the crowd was. And Jesus took out 1 or 2 fishes from the sea, and he fed the whole crowd with 2 fishes. So Prabhupada does say that, okay, first of all, you're not Jesus Christ, so don't try to imitate him. And then he fed the whole crowd with only 2 fish. So that's a potency of Jesus Christ. And we cannot imitate that, oh, he did, so I can also do. No. He was also crossed, so crucifixed. Can we put you on the cross? No. But this is all because they want to satisfy the taste of the tongue. Even in Quran, this halal meat is mentioned. So Prabhupada explained the halal meat, the process was because we have to understand Hazrat Muhammad, he was in the desert trying to lead people. So the injunction was, you should tie a goat, and on the desert, on the ground or on sand, one should have, I don't know how many feet of burning coal around that goat, and one should walk on that burning coal pathway bare feet. And then when you get to the goat, Put your knife on the goat's throat, goat or camel, goat's throat, and slowly cut the throat while looking into the eyes of the animal and saying this, whatever they call it, ayat or whatever it is, I would say shloka, which means the same thing what is mentioned in Vedic texts. I am killing you in this lifetime to eat your meat, so next lifetime you can come and kill me and eat the meat, eat my meat the same way. So there were rules, regulations, restrictions. Not that unrestricted animal killing should go on and meat eating should go on. In Jewish custom also, they have this kosher meat. They call it kosher, just like Muslims call it halal meat. They call it kosher meat. Now in Bible, see, we think we can go around, work around the text or injunctions, and we are safe. So what in Bible says, if by killing animal for meat eating, their blood drops on the ground, then there will be, you have to suffer for so many lifetimes, something like that. I have to really find out the exact wording. So in kosher meat industry, what do? See, they're trying to get around this restriction. So their priest should come to the slaughterhouse, and he should bless the animals. And when they cut the animals, they make sure the blood does not drop on the ground. So they collect the blood before it is dropped on the ground and it is flushed out. Well, Jesus Christ or whoever their leader, whoever they follow, I think they were pretty smart. We cannot fool them. The karma is still there. Whether the blood drops on the ground or the blood goes in the plastic bag or blood goes in the drainage system, it's all the same because the animal is getting killed. It's not about the blood, it's the pain the animal is feeling. And that is where the reaction is. But people don't want to understand. Okay, somebody is. Shashwati Mata, you're getting unmuted. Okay. So there are two ways. Okay, this understood. Similarly, they are recommended to drink wine by worshipping the goddess Chandika. The purpose is restriction. People have given up all this restriction. Now they are regularly opening wine distilleries and slaughterhouses and indulging in drinking alcohol and eating flesh. A Vaishnava Acharya like Narad Muni knows very well that persons engaged in such animal killing in the name of religion are certainly becoming involved in the cycle of birth and death, forgetting the real aim of life to go back home, back to Godhead. So this human life is for understanding how I can go back home, back to Godhead. Not to get involved in the cycle of actions and reactions. Thus, a great sage Narad, while instructing Srimad Bhagavatam to Vyas Muni, condemned the karma kanda fruitive activities mentioned in the Vedas. Narad told Vyasadeva, the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is rarely condemned and is quite unreasonable because they're guided under your instructions. They will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. So that's why Narad Muni induced Vedvyasi to write Srimad Bhagavatam, to write the glories of the devotion service, the activities of the Lord. Srila Narad Muni chastised Vyasadeva, compiling so many Vedic supplementary scriptures, which are all intended for guiding the people in general. Narad Muni condemned these scriptures because they do not mention direct devotional service. Under Narad's instructions, direct worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, was set forth by Vyasadeva. Conclusion is that neither the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, nor his devotee ever sanctions animal killing in the name of religion. Krishna incarnated himself as Lord Buddha to put an end to animal killing in the name of religion. Animal sacrifice under the name of religion is conducted by the influence of tamogun, the mode of ignorance. So that understanding which cannot distinguish between the religious way of life and the irreligious, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, that imperfect understanding of Sana Pritha is in the mode of passion. Understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction, or Pritha is in the mode of ignorance. So those who are involved in the mode of ignorance manufacture religious systems for killing animals. Actually, dharma is transcendental, as Lord Shri Krishna teaches. We must give up all other systems of religion and simply surrender unto Him. Thus, the Lord and His devotees and representatives teach the transcendental dharma, which does not allow animal killing at all. At the present moment, it is the greatest misfortune that in India, many so-called missionary workers are spreading irreligion in the name of religion. They claim an ordinary human being to be God and recommend meat eating for everyone, so-called sannyasis. So that's all irreligion going on. That's Kali Yuga. That's why Krishna has given, or Vedvyasi has given Srimad Bhagavatam for us to study and enjoy and get purified. So Krishna gave Bhagavad Gita towards the end of the Dwapara Yuga because he knew Kali Yuga, people were completely disturbed and they have no understanding of anything. And today being Gopashtami, so here the shlokas are about animaling, and Gopashtami is a day when Krishna and Balram, they said, so Baba, now we are old enough that we can take cows to the forest for grazing. And so far they were taking only calves and they could not go to the forest because with the calves you cannot go. So now they wanted to go to the forest, deep inside the forest with the cows. So the idea was so they can go deep inside, have much time with their friends and play around, and of course to kill the demons, because Rakshasas, they could not come to Nandagaon and they could not come really to the outskirts of Nandagaon. And also Krishna wanted to enjoy with the gopis and he could not do that because at the outskirts of Nandagaon, he could not do it because Yashoda Maya was prayer. So today was the day when he was allowed to take the cows. He was formally anointed Gopa. Gopa means who takes care of the cows. And when he was taking, Nanda Baba has 9 lakh cows, 900,000 cows. And then there are other cowherd boyfriends, they had their cows. So many, millions and millions of cows were there. So Yashoda Maya saw this after a few days, and then some say it happened on Gopashtami Day, but then she came to Krishna, oh Krishna, I don't like you going to the forest without the umbrella and you go bare feet. There's so many rocks there, and so your feet must be getting hurt. So she arranged for shoes and umbrella for Krishna. Krishna said, Maya, we are Gwal, we are Gopas, we are servants of cows. So if my master is not having an umbrella or wearing shoes, how can I carry umbrella or the shoes? So if you have to arrange 900,000 umbrellas, and for every cow, 4 shoes, because they have 4 hoofs. So that many shoes and that many umbrellas. And then he was also saying you should, of course, I'm their servant, so you should provide golden necklaces for every cow and this and that. Yashodamaya said, forget it, I cannot do all this. We take the cow as they are. So today is this very, very auspicious day. And in Nandagaon, they have beautiful celebration for today. So these are the pastimes. They remind us how much Krishna loved his cows. And of course, in his herd, there are buffaloes also. So how much he loved them. And people just kill cows to eat their flesh. That is very, very sinful. And the reaction is equally great. So cannot run away from that. Anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Extremely sorry, Prabhuji. Disturbed you
okay.
and other devotees in the class.
That's okay. We know Shanvi is there, so.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Panchali was from Bandau, Farrukhabad district, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Not Punjab. So I was just going through that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I was told Punjab, but anyway.
So I was curious to know that. So I read that on Wikipedia and found that it's there's a place called Badau in Farrukhabad district of UP. So she was from there.
Okay.
No, yeah. But because this is a very old thing, so don't know how true it is.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one general question, Prabhuji. We heard about in today's class producing children and grandchildren and Shraddha and all. So, Prabhuji, what happens to those people who just have maybe one son and that son fortunately becomes a brahmachari? Then, in case four fathers and all stop, does it? Or the cousins and all produce Shraddha?
Well, if somebody becomes a devotee, then technically they don't have to do all the shraddh. And then the predecessors, they all automatically, I won't say liberated, but at least they get a chance to come to devotion service.
And then if there are no brothers or sisters, so no future generation, in that case, it's stopped in that dynasty or whatever we call it.
Yeah, that's okay. This is a special case.
And Prabhuji, in fact, I think when you took us to Badrinath, at that time also you had, I recall you had said once that if somebody kind of does this Shraddh and all that day, Badrinathji, or I think you had mentioned gas, but so they don't even need to do it again. So even in that case, it's stopped. I faintly recall you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, in Badrinath, if you do, then you don't need to do again. Or Gaya, if you do need to do again.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Probably one more information. In Ayodhya, there is a small and big parikrama starting. So the bigger parikrama is from today till tomorrow. It's a 14 course
Okay.
parikrama, and the
Okay.
smaller one is from 24th. It's for 5 course. So it happens every year, once in a year.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So hopefully I'll go for this 5 course. Probably. on
Yeah, go
20.
ahead. It'll be great. Maybe someday we will, if Lord Ram allows us, we can come sometime someday.
Sure. Probably.
Hari Bol Vinay Prabhu.
Hari Bol Vinay Prabhuji.
Hari bol Mataji. Hari bol.
I think
Prabhuji,
this
pray for us
Panchayat
also.
Absolutely. Definitely, ma'am.
this Panchayat is starting, so very auspicious. Hari Bol.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So at least Krishna is a little far away from me. He is in Mathura and Vrindavan, so I get that privilege for Sri Ramji to be here. So I'll do that parikrama.
Yeah, it's a great place to be at. It's a great place.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so you all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Jai Srila
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.